Yes. So I'm going to mute everyone and while we're lying down, and I'll remute you once we get up. So someone told me that if you want to speak, you just need to press the space bar on your device and speak. And then when you stop pressing it, you mute again. So that's quite a handy tip. So, Casper the cat has just clawed up my mats very unhelpfully. So settle down onto your backs with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And I'd like you to start by dropping your awareness down. Well, first of all, just into the back of your body. So maybe feeling the back of your head on the floor. And you could let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left if you like. And moving down your body, feeling the back of your shoulders on the floor, the back of your torso, so perhaps you're feeling the back of your ribs in contact with the ground, and some of your vertebrae, some of them will touch, some of them won't, down to the back of your pelvis, and then into the soles of your feet. And keep your awareness there with your feet, because what I'd like you to do is with your right foot, just start to tap your toes on the floor. So you're picking your toes off the floor, keeping your heel in contact with the ground and tapping the toes on the floor. And see how that feels. Just in the right foot only to start with. And then in the same foot, start to lift the heel and tap the heel on the floor a little bit. And then alternate between the heel and the toes. So this asks quite a bit of the ankle as you lift first your heel and then your toes and tapping one and then the other on the ground. And then let that go. And come to your left foot. So start by tapping your left toes on the floor. And this just helps you to really feel the contact of the sole of that foot on the ground. And then start picking up your heel and tapping your heel on the ground. And if at any point it's helpful to move the foot a bit further away from you or a bit closer to you, you can do. And then start to alternate. Tap the heel and then tap the toes. And just do that a couple more times. And then let that go. Rest your hands onto the front of your body and just feel a couple of cycles of breath move through you. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And keep your hands on the front of your body and lengthen both legs out on the floor. And so give your legs a little bit of a roll. Maybe bounce your knees on the ground, roll the legs a little bit. And what I'd like you to do now, I think we did this movement, it might have been last week, possibly the week before, the one where you dig your heels into the ground and then you quite quickly start to point you're rocking yourself. That's it, Sharon, rocking yourself on your heels. So you're pointing your toes away from you and then towards you quite quickly. Good. That's it. Very nice. And then let the legs go again. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you, and then fold your right knee into your chest. So leave your left leg long on the ground. Fold your right knee in towards you and have a couple of breaths there. Hold around your right knee. So hold around the top of the knee or the back of the thigh. So we're thinking about that right knee really folding in towards you. Particularly as you exhale, the weight of your hands can help settle the knee towards your chest. And the left leg is long and passive on the floor, front of the hip joint opening. Let another breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then I'd like you to bend the left knee and stand the left foot on the floor. So keep holding around the right knee. That's it, keep the right knee folded in towards you. And then once your left foot's standing on the floor, you're then going to lengthen your right leg up towards the ceiling. And first of all, give the leg a bit of a shake out. And then it's up to you. You might like to hold around the back of your thigh. You can interlink your fingers. And you're going to do a bit of circling of that ankle. So yeah, circling of the ankle is one thing you can do. I mean, there's lots of things you can do here, but so I was thinking circling of your ankle, and also you can do a bit of pointing your toes and pointing your heels. It's quite nice to really stretch into the heel for a moment and feel the back of the leg opening. And it's really up to you whether you're supporting your leg with your hands or you're happy to have your leg unsupported by your hands. Good, and we're not going to stay there forever. And from here, you're going to lengthen that right leg out on the floor, and then you're going to fold your left knee into your chest. And have a few breaths here. So we're thinking about the right leg now becoming heavy and passive on the floor. So the right leg is long on the floor, the left knee is folded in towards your chest. Are we all there? That's it, Mel. So right leg heavy on the floor, right leg long and heavy on the floor, left knee now folded into your chest. I think that's your right knee folded into your chest. That's it, yeah, the other way round. Excellent. So have a few breaths with the left knee folded into your chest, the right leg long on the ground. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then from there, you're going to bend your right knee, bring your right foot to stand on the floor. And when you're ready, take the left leg up towards the ceiling, give it a shake out. And yeah, whatever feels good. We're particularly thinking about the foot and the ankle. So that circling of the ankle is what I always like to do here. And then you can do a bit of pointing the heel, pointing the toes, and maybe focusing on, for perhaps a breath or two, that sort of stretching into the heel so the back of the knee opens. You can support, again, support around the back of your leg with your hands, back of your thigh. That's helpful. Good. And then from here, you're going to lengthen both legs out on the floor again. And when you've lengthened your legs out on the floor, just do whatever you like with the legs long on the floor. So it could be bouncing the knees, it could be rolling the legs, it could be rocking yourself on your heels if you happen to like that one. Yeah, that's nice. Very nice. And then from there, you're once again going to bend both knees and stand your feet on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, the back of your pelvis on the floor. They look very nicely organised, Francis. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So we're just bringing our focus a little bit more up our legs, perhaps into the hip joints, around the back of the pelvis, maybe even into the lower back as we tilt the knees from side to side. Of course, we still feel the contact of the footprints on the floor, how the weight shifts side to side through the feet as the knees tilt. And then from here, I'd like you to do the same movement, but with your feet wider apart. So pause in the middle and take your feet as wide as your mat. And do a little bit of tilting your knees now from side to side. And see how that feels. So this focuses in a little bit more into the hip joints. And just be aware in this one that as you take your knees to one side, are both knees moving, are both knees going? Sort of equal amount. We're not leaving one leg behind. Also, of course, checking that it feels comfortable. And if you want to, so you could very much just stay with rocking your knees, but if you want to have a few breaths with your knees down on one side And letting your head roll in the opposite direction, you can do. That's nice. But obviously just, you know, as always, being mindful of your body, how it's feeling today. So you can have a few breaths on one side, a few breaths on the other side. And when you've done that to both sides, you're going to come back to the center and fold your knees into your chest, both knees now. And do a little bit of rocking, hold around your knees, do a little bit of rocking from side to side. That's nice. And what you can also do here is, if you like, take your both legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out. Very nice. So what we're going to do from here in a moment is, from rocking on your back with your knees folded in towards you, you're going to roll onto one side and have a few breaths there. And we're going to be coming over into standing. So roll onto your side, have a few breaths. And let's come over into standing, which I hope is not too much of a shock at this point. So we're going to do some fairly simple things in standing to start with. I've got you all muted at the moment, and I might keep you muted, at least for the moment. So let's come into standing, and yes, especially when we're moving devices around, that's when it tends to get a bit noisy. So let yourself arrive in standing. Maybe the first thing to do as we're all arriving in standing is to have a look at your feet and settle yourself down in standing, feet hip width apart and parallel. And obviously sometimes when we first come into standing, particularly when it's quite early on, we can feel a bit, certainly myself, I can feel a bit all over the place. So we just have this sense of ourselves in standing. Perhaps from all the feet things we've done, we might feel a bit more aware of our feet and ankles on the floor. And then what I'd like you to do is just start with some sort of easy movements, which are about, I suppose, about the whole of the body moving in space. So we can swing our arms from side to side. We can slap our hands onto our body. Very nice. So just a couple more times, we will be here forever. And then let that go. Once again, look down at your feet, settle your feet on the floor. Let a breath come in, and as the breath leaves you, take your arms up. And we're going to do this one that I'm rather keen on at the moment, this reaching up through one arm and then the other. And as you reach up through one arm, shift your weight into that leg. So we're lengthening out through one side of the body, then the other. Obviously keeping it comfortable. If there's any sort of issues going on with your shoulders, you don't want to be forcing these movements. Just this feeling of being long through one side and then the other. And from here, we're going to sweep down into a forward bend. So whenever you're ready, you can let a breath come in and then exhale down into your forward bend. Let your head go. So this feeling of being as much as possible rooted through the heels and then heavy and floppy in the arms, the shoulders, the head, the body. So giving all that weight down to the floor. And then letting a breath come in, and as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. And we're just going to do a little bit, when you come back up into standing, just maybe with one hand on your belly, let your gaze come up a little bit. So just that beginning of coming towards a standing back arch. And then roll back down into a forward bend. So we're going to be rolling in and out a few times. So rolling back down again. And then let yourself roll back up. And again, keeping these back arches small. So this time you could have one hand on your belly. You could take your arm up. And just what's it like to take the gaze up? The pelvis moves forwards, but we're not going particularly far. And then down again. So down into a forward bend. Let the head go, let the arms go. Feel the heels sinking into the ground. Rolling back up again into standing. Maybe if you can remember, swap your hands over. One hand on your belly. The other arm up, let the gaze come up and back, bend your knees if you like. And then once more, roll back down into a forward bend. Let a breath come in as you exhale, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. We'll just try one where we take both arms up. And again, not going very far into this, we'll revisit these a bit later on. So again, if both arms are up, sometimes people like to have the hands around the back of the head, supporting the head. You could be bending your knees, opening the front of your body. And then last time down into your forward bend. Let the head go, let the arms go. Bend the knees as much as you like. Might be quite nice to bend the knees here so the chest comes closer towards the thighs. And then once more, let the breath come in, exhale, roll back up into standing and have a little bit of a shake out. And we're going to do a couple of we're going to do a little sequence of balances, which you will know, and then a sort of another fairly simple balance. So I think, let's see, if I just show you briefly, the sequence we're going to do is we take the leg back, we come to tree, mini tree, and then we come to this, put our hands into prayer pose there, this crossing the leg over, sort of a mini eagle legs. So let's start. I'm going to go side on so it's easier for you to see. So start settling your feet down, hip width apart and parallel. And just shifting your weight from side to side. So closing your eyes, you're going to do this to decide which foot you want to stand on. So closing your eyes, in standing, feeling yourself, feeling your body, feeling your feet on the floor, and just having a sense of which leg, which foot feels more drawn to taking your weight. Is it the same side as usual? So, and then opening your eyes, you're going to shift your weight onto the leg you've chosen to stand on and come up onto the ball of the other foot. Just let your arms hang at this point, and then we're going to slide those toes that we're not standing on back behind us and flip onto the top of the toes. And we can see what's it like to straighten that back knee. For me, it always makes my foot cramp, so I might have to relax it a little bit. And then slide your foot back in. But turn around now, take your knee out to the side. So you're coming into a mini tree pose, but keeping your pelvis facing forwards. And see how that feels for a couple of breaths. Good. And then from there, bring your toes back onto the floor. Let your standing knee bend so that you can sit down onto a bent standing leg and then cross the other leg over it. Now you could have your big toe on the floor, or the foot could be off the floor completely, this top leg. And bring your hands into prayer pose. Now in this one, I'd like you to try and feel that your shoulders are over your hips, yeah? It's quite easy in this one to be leaning forwards. Some people leaning back, but more often leaning forwards. So try to feel shoulders over hips, over heel. Just have another breath or two here. So obviously, as we know, when we stand on a bent leg, it becomes much more muscular. So the muscles really have to work harder. And yeah, it can feel a bit more hard work. So give your legs a bit of a shake out. Come back to settling down, looking down at your feet. Maybe just for a moment, close your eyes. See how it feels to be in standing now, having done one side. Yeah. Interesting. And then opening your eyes, finding a point to focus your gaze on, shifting your weight onto the other foot now, and sliding the toes of the foot you just stood on back behind you. Flipping onto the top of the toes, and then maybe straightening that back knee. And then from there, bringing your toes back in, coming on into your mini tree pose. So your toes could be completely off the floor, or you could have a few toes on the floor. Try to feel your pelvis is facing forwards. A couple of breaths there. And then bring your toes back down onto the floor. Let your standing knee bend. So then we can cross this top leg over into our little eagle legs balance. Your big toe could be on the floor or it could be off the floor. And bring the hands into prayer pose. See how it feels to settle in this balance where we have our standing knee bent. So yeah, very different feeling. All around the hip joint and the muscles of the leg. Very nice. Good. Another breath or two. Wonderful. Good. Coming out, having a little shake out. And then once more, we're going to do one more balance in a moment, but first of all, roll down into a forward bend. So look at your feet, then start sliding the arms down, letting the shoulders feel heavy, letting the head feel heavy, all the way down into your forward bend. Bending your knees as much as you like. So it can be quite nice to do that one where you bend your knees and let your chest come close to your thighs. Let a breath come in, and whenever you want to rolling up into standing on an exhalation. And maybe have a little shake out. And let's see. Yeah, reach up through the arm. So whichever foot you stood on first, reach up through that arm. So I stood on my right foot, so I'm reaching up through my right arm, but you do the side you stood on first. So reaching up, let the other arm be heavy and relaxed. Start to shift your weight more onto this side where the arm is reaching up. Let the heel come up on the other side. So I've just got the ball of my foot on the floor. It's becoming lighter and lighter until I can float that foot off the floor and catch the top of my foot or my trouser leg. Let the shoulder drop. And then from here, let your hand come down onto your breastbone. And just see if we can settle at our center. Is it possible to feel quiet here? Of course, we might feel quite wobbly on our standing foot. That's absolutely fine. We keep encouraging this sense of quiet, settledness through our foot, through the whole of ourselves. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leaving us. Maybe one more cycle of breath if you can. It's interesting to stay and see how it feels. And then come down, have a little shake out. And so just for a moment before we do the other side, see how it feels to settle in Tadasana, in mountain pose again. And so again, we've got that feeling of maybe if you close your eyes for a moment, maybe feeling quite lopsided because we've stood on one leg and not the other in this balance. And then start to reach up, open your eyes, start to reach up through the other arm. Let the other arm be heavy and floppy. And shifting your weight into the raised arm side. Your heel can come up in the other side. That foot that you just stood on is now becoming lighter and lighter until it floats off the floor and you catch the top of your foot or your trouser leg. And then from here, we're gathering in to the center of ourselves, bringing our hand onto our breastbone, letting our knee drop. See if we can find a place where maybe for a moment or two we can be quiet and settled, and we might have a wobble, we might come back to that quiet settled place. I like to stay there, trying to feel the movement of the breath in our body. And be there for another cycle of breath or two. Good. Come down, have a little shake out. So we're going to be coming to the backs of our mats, making our way down to a forward bend and dog pose, a little bit of cat on hands and knees, and then moving into child pose. So just arrive at the back of your mat, feel yourself in standing, feel the contact of your feet on the floor, and then start to look down. Keep feeling your heels in the ground, let your knees soften, give your head, give your arms, give your shoulders down towards the floor. Arrive in your forward bend, have 2 or 3 cycles of breath here at least. Feel the breath come in, and as the breath leaves you, that's when you can be heavy and floppy in the upper body, and also feel your heels growing roots into the ground. And then whenever you're ready, bending your knees so you can bring your hands to the floor and walking your hands forwards into dog. So big handprints on the floor. How does this dog feel? It's fine to let your heels come up. It's also really nice to bend one knee at a time. We'll be doing some more dogs, so we don't need to stay here particularly long, particularly if it's feeling a bit stiff. Have a couple of breaths here. And from dog, you're going to be coming onto hands and knees and taking a moment on hands and knees to feel the hands on the ground. Organize the hands so they're under your shoulders. And come to a few cycles of cat. We'll come back to this in a moment, but just a little bit of rounding your back and then dipping your spine. So we're thinking, everyone who's a cat owner, we're just really thinking of the way the cats move in such a sort of sinuous, beautiful way. We might not feel quite as sinuous or beautiful ourselves, but that's our intention here, is to give our spine this opportunity to move in a fluid way, or a more fluid way. And then whenever you're ready, from a rounded up cat, you're going to rock your heels back into child pose, keeping rounded as you rock back. So looking back towards your feet. And then settling down into child. So in child pose, have a look at some of you. That's very nice. So there's lots of things we can feel in child pose. We can feel all the points of the body that are in contact with the ground. But particularly today, I'd like you to feel your shoulders. And so there's this feeling how the shoulder blades move away from the spine. They sort of slide away from each other. And the weight of the shoulders drops down through your elbows. So it's quite nice to have the elbows quite wide so we can feel that transmission of weight of the shoulders down through the forearms, through the elbows into the ground. And also just check how your forehead is resting on the floor. And if we can rest quite near to our hairline, that gives the back of the neck an opportunity to lengthen. And then perhaps one more focus in child, just for the last few breaths, is each time we exhale, we want to imagine that our pelvis becomes heavier. Imagine the pelvis becomes heavier. And then from child pose, come onto hands and knees, back onto hands and knees rather, and give each leg a lengthen out behind you. And then from hands and knees, you're going to step 1 foot forwards into lunge. So we start to think a bit more about opening out the front of the body. So 1 foot stepped forwards into lunge. This front foot is nice and planted on the ground. Your back toes are tucked under or flat. And it might be that you just want to be in lunge, having a few breaths here. There's lots to feel in lunge, obviously. There's that big stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. And it might be that that's plenty for us to dive down into and feel. If you feel that you want to be easing in and out of lunge, that's also a possibility. So with your back foot flat, keeping your chest close to your thighs, you can rock back and you can rock forwards a little bit. So when you come forwards, it might be that your knee comes a little bit further forwards over your foot, as long as your heel can stay down. That's it. And then when you rock back, you come onto the heel of the front leg. So these are all possibilities, but it's quite nice to add these little movements into our lunge. In a moment, we're going to swap sides in lunge. So you could do this on hands and knees. You could step into dog pose if you wished. So from your lunge, if you're going to step into dog, you can plant your hands down, tuck your back toe under, step your front leg back, have a bit of a lengthen out in dog, see how it feels from here. You can bend both knees, you can bend one knee. And then on an exhalation, you can step the other foot forwards into your lunge. And so take a little bit of time just to arrive in lunge, to feel how your body is today in lunge. So particularly, we don't often talk about stretching, but lunge is, we do feel, I think, this stretch. There's no way around it through the front of the back leg thigh. Not that there's anything wrong with stretching, but sometimes it can get a little bit addictive. So giving the weight of the pelvis down to the ground. And then we could do that rocking forwards and back, so untucking the back toe, keeping the chest close to the thigh, looking back behind us, coming forwards a bit more, up onto the fingertips, the knee maybe travels forwards along the foot a little bit, back again. So it's quite interesting in this one, I was just thinking about, as I rock back, it's quite, I sort of tend to veer off a bit. So as you rock back, just think about, where you're going when you're rocking back. It's not a problem, but I think it's interesting as we rock back that there might be this tendency for the pelvis to veer off to one side, possibly to the back leg side. I'm not entirely sure. Okay. When you're ready, might be nice to come into another dog pose, so either straight from lunge or coming onto hands and knees, planting your hands down, tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking up and back into dog. In this dog pose, when you've had a few breaths, I'd like you to do that one where you roll through the tops of your toes. This is in 1 foot at a time, through the tops of your toes, the tips of your toes onto the top of your toes. So we give the front of the ankle a really nice stretch out. And let's hold down. I'm just going to unmute everyone for a bit. I'm just unmuting. Is that Atticus?
Yes, they've been silent the whole time and just said you unmute the chat.
So I just thought I'd unmute everyone for a little bit and then I'll unmute you again while we're doing some things. So from that dog pose, you could, you could again fold back into child pose for a couple of breaths, I think. And then when you've had a couple of breaths in child pose, come back onto hands and knees for a little bit more cat. And what I'd like you to do in these cat movements now is to just really have a tune into how your lower back is feeling today. Because cats, as well as bringing this fluidity to our spine, it helps us to understand how we're feeling today. So when you round your back to the ceiling, how does your lower back feel? Might also be how does your upper back feel, but particularly the lower back. And then as you dip your spine down to the floor, so the one, how does the lower back feel? Because what we're going to do in a moment is a little bit of just starting quite, I say tentatively, is rocking towards our face-up dog. And I think from understanding how your back feels, you can decide how far you're going to go. And we're going to go a bit further in a moment. So take your hands a little bit further forwards. And so all I would like you to do is just start almost this possibility of what's it like to be rocking our weight a bit more forwards into our arms. And I certainly quite like this feeling of not going all the way into face-up dog, but of just seeing how my arms can start to really support myself. How it feels to be starting to open up through the front of the hip joints. And it might be that you feel that you're raring to go in a face-up dog today, which by all means you can do. And in a moment we're going to sit in kneeling and just take the weight off our hands and arms. So it might be that this last time you just see, okay, how does it feel in face-up dog? And then we'll try a few different face-up dogs in a moment. So from here, just come to sit in kneeling and see. Is everyone here comfortable in kneeling? Yeah. I think you all are, aren't you? Because Helen, how are you in kneeling? Do you need to have a cushion under the tops of your feet?
I'm okay if it's short time. It depends how long it's going to be.
Okay. Well, firstly, I just want you to shake your hands out. But then I have just got this little. We're going to do it a bit more later on. I just want to do this sort of short little sequence where we move our head with our breath. So it's going to be a few cycles of breathing. So yes, maybe a cushion under your heels. So when Helen's settled down, anyone who needs a cushion under their feet or between their bottom and their heels to get one. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in with our head in the center. And to start with, as we exhale, we're just going to let our gaze and our head come up a little bit. And then breathe in, bring the head back to the center. And as you exhale, let your head fall forwards. And then as you breathe in, bring your head back to the center. And as you exhale, turn your head to the right. And as you breathe in, bring your head back to the center. And as you exhale, turn your head to the left. Breathe in, back to the center. Sorry, just sneeze. Exhale, let your head come up again. Breathe in, back to the center. And then exhale, let the head fall forwards. We'll come back to that and do it slightly differently in a moment, but come on to hands and knees now.
And give each leg a little, so each leg a stretch out behind you. So we're going to do some tail wagging movements on hands and knees, and then we will take this into our face up dog. So start just on in a normal hands and knees, seeing how it feels to wag your tail from side to side. And again, you can really be aware of how does your lower back feel. If the lower back feels tight, is it more comfortable to round your back a bit as you're wagging your tail? How does it feel best? You could then swap and do your little fishes. So letting your tail be wagged as you take your legs from side to side. And then settle the legs again. Come back to wagging your tail. Good. If you need to sit back just briefly for a moment to shake your hands out, because we're going to come onto a longer hands and knees position now and start to do that movement that takes going forwards and back with our tail wagging. So taking ourselves towards child pose and forwards towards face up dog. So I'm thinking I haven't got quite enough. So it might be a little bit of experimenting to get the right distance, hands and knees. So we can travel forwards, moving our pelvis from side to side, and we can travel back. And we want to keep it as easy, as comfortable, as enjoyable as possible. So this sort of side to side snaking movement. And all the time noticing how the lower back feels. Obviously when we're in face up dog, it's about the weight of the pelvis dropping down to the floor. If we feel our lower back could really benefit from rounding, using the cat movements into our face up dog, we can tuck our toes under, round our back up to the ceiling, rock our hips back over our heels, and then travel forwards into face up dog, rounding the back, and see how that feels. And you could repeat that one again. So tuck the toes under, rock the hips back over the heels, let a breath come in here, and then travel forwards into your face up dog. Rounding your back. I want to do just one more face up dog in a moment, so it might be good now to fold back into child pose. Sorry, I'm a bit hay fevery today. But there's child pose or kneeling for a moment. Whichever you prefer. I just want to come back to a slightly different little movement and kneeling before we come back into face up dog. So it might be that you want to stretch, come onto hands and knees and just stretch each leg out behind you. And then use your cushion to sit comfortably in kneeling for a moment. So we're going to do a similar movement to what we did with our head and neck, but we're going to get the whole of the body. So maybe if I go side on, it will make sense. We're going to get the whole of the body involved. Side on, and I'll just tilt this down a little bit. So letting a breath come in, and then as we exhale, we're going to try and let the whole of the body come into this curve as we look up. We let the pelvis roll forward, exhaling. Breathing in back to the center. Can we round forwards? Let the head go down. Good. And then breathing in back to the center. And then we're going to exhale and turn to the right. Whole of the body, good. Breathing in back to the center. Exhale, turn to the left. Breathing in back to the center. And then once more with the first movement. So breathing in the center, exhaling, letting the head come up, letting the body round forward. So it's like you're dipping down cat. Breathing in back to the center,
rounding your back. Good. And finally breathing in back to the center. And then we're going to come back onto hands and knees. I'll just show you what I would like you to do. So we're going to do, you can choose whichever way to go into face-up dog you like. So side bending or rounding your back. When you're in face-up dog, I'd like you to try moving into the face-up dog where you tuck your toes under and let your knees come off the floor. And from here, we'll come into dog pose. And in this dog pose, we'll do our one-legged dog poses. And then we'll be coming back into standing from there. So, and I think I'll unmute everyone in a moment. So on hands and knees, you're going to be, to make it a long hands and knees, you're going to be moving into face-up dog however you like. So that might be tucking your toes under, rounding your back, and then rounding your back to travel forwards into face-up dog. Making sure you're in as comfortable a face-up dog as possible, because when we do this one, when we tuck our toes under and bring the knees off the floor, it's a bit more of a challenge for the lower back. You don't need to stay here long. From here, really stretching the heels away from you. From here, you're exhaling, sending your hips up and back into dog pose. When you arrive in dog pose, it might be quite a long dog, so you're going to walk your feet in towards your hands a little bit if you like. Have a couple of breaths in this dog. And if you like, you can explore your one-legged dog poses. So, yeah, seeing how those feel. Reaching up through one leg and then the other. You don't have to do the one-legged dog poses, but if it would feel nice, I know some of you quite like them. And when you've done one-legged dog poses on both sides, just settle in a sort of quiet dog pose. Very nice. And from that quiet dog pose, you're going to walk your hands in towards your feet into a quiet forward bend as well. And from your forward bend, you can roll up into standing. So arriving in standing once more. And so maybe just taking a moment, I'm going to have to adjust my screen, aren't I, having tipped it down. So let me tip it back up again so I don't get my head cut off. So in standing, having a look at your feet, settling your feet down, hip width apart and parallel. And first of all, let's come back to our movements where we're opening through the front of the body and rolling down. So maybe here, just see how it feels to let your gaze come up a little bit. And then let yourself roll all the way back down into your forward bend. And this time from your forward bend, I'd like you, if you want to go down into a squat. So it might be that you roll up the back of your mat or you grab a book or a block. You don't have to, you can let your heels come up, that's fine. So we can fold all the way down into a squat. The front of our body is really closed up here. And then we can come forwards onto the balls of the feet, remove the block, sink, send the heels down and the sit bones up. So we roll into a forward bend. Make sure you don't have your block under your heels now. As you exhale, roll up into standing. And then maybe taking one arm up, one hand on the belly, letting the front of the body open as the pelvis moves forwards and the gaze comes up. We could be bending the knees here to help the lower back, dropping the tailbone.
And then come forwards again. So it's up to you. If you want, it's quite nice to go all the way down into the squat if that benefits your lower back. So forward bend, letting the head go, letting the arms go, and then bending the knees down into the squat again. You know, give yourself that time. If it's good for your lower back, I mean, you know, squatting is good obviously for our ankles, our knees, our hip joints. It's also good for the lower back. So it is worth coming here. From your squat again, remove the block, come onto the balls of your feet, and sending the heels down, sending the sit bones up, back into your forward bend. Let a breath come in as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. Swapping your arms over, if you can remember, one hand on the belly. It's quite good in these standing forward bends and for squatting to have the feet, you know, generous hip width apart. Mine are quite wide apart. And so again, what's it like to open through the front of the body? Bend the knees as much as you like so the tailbone can drop. Pelvis moves forwards. So we're going to do this one more time, rolling down through a forward bend. Let the head go, let the arms go, root the heels into the ground. And then bending the knees straight forwards over your feet, down into your squat. Feeling you're in that little ball, you're really gathered up in the front of your body. And your lower back is lengthening out with the weight of your pelvis. And then sinking down into the heels, maybe definitely removing the block first. Maybe the heels come up at this point. And then the heels go down. We arrive back in our forward bend. We let the head and arms go. We let a breath come in. We roll up as we exhale. And in this last standing back arch, if you want to take both arms up, you can do. You can bend both knees. So it's this feeling of, it's not about really how far we go, but just letting ourselves open through the front of the body. And then this time, just let yourself finish what could be a forward bend. If you want to go all the way down into squatting, you can do. So heavy head, heavy arms. Where are we? Are we in forward bends and squats? A variety, very nice. I like to see some individual choice. So from your squat or your forward bend, making your way, rolling back up into standing. And when you arrive in standing, having a bit of a shake out. And we're going to come into a few more standing balances here. So we're going to go a bit further. Maybe if I just show you, we're going to go a bit further with this one where we took our arm up. So we're going to go into it the same way, taking the arm up, coming to here. Wait in a minute, we'll do it together. But when we get to this point, we're going to do these sort of, you know, expansive movements. Expansive movements we might fall out of, but hopefully they'll feel fun and joyful, which is good at these times. So let's take the right arm up. Reach up through that arm, let the left arm be heavy and floppy. Let's shift our weight onto our right leg. So the left heel is coming off the floor. The left ball of the foot is feeling lighter and lighter until we can float that left leg up and catch the top of the foot. And then let the hand come down onto your breastbone. So this is the place from which we're moving outwards. We can take our arm forwards and our foot back away from our bottom. You can see where we get to. If we're not that keen on it, we can come back again. We can try something else. We can also let ourselves tip forwards if we like. We're breathing here. We're coming back up. We're not really worrying too much if we fall out of it. And we just maybe one more time, where can we go to on this side? Just looking for this feeling of an expansive movement where we're reaching out forwards and backwards. Good, very nice. Lovely. Oh, and then, yes, having a bit of a shake out. And then just settle for a moment in standing. Close your eyes. Gather your attention inward. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the whole of your body. And then start moving towards side 2, opening your eyes, taking your left arm up, right arm's heavy, weights shifting into your left leg. The right heel comes away from the floor. Can we start to feel that the ball of the right foot is becoming light? Floating that leg up. Good. The hand comes to your breastbone. So we gather into our centre for a moment, and then from our centre, where can we move to? Where can we move to that feels expansive, that feels joyful? And in being expansive and joyful, that we're not doing something that causes us pain. Those things would not be, conducive. And so it's, we think, think about this as movement rather than trying to be somewhere fixed. I think particularly at the moment we all need to feel there's movement rather than a sense of being fixed and stuck. Good. Nice, having a little shake out. So if you're wanting to play around with that a little bit more on that side, you can do. If you're thinking, no, I've had enough, it's going to be forward bend and dropping down into a squat, if you like. So when we come into a squat, it's if you're coming into a squat or forward bend, it's very much, we're sort of doing a very different movement now. We're letting the back of the body lengthen. It's something quite quiet and symmetrical. And in your own time, making your way back up into standing. And when you arrive back in standing, again, settle your feet in Tadasana, hip width apart and parallel. And then you're going to step your right foot forward. So when we're in this stepped forward foot position, we're going to do a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So again, with this feeling of being in our feet, which we started the class with, can we drop down into our feet? And from here, can we settle the feet down? Maybe hands on the pelvis, just feeling rooted. We're sort of growing roots down from the waist into the ground. And we're going to bend the front knee and bring the hands into prayer pose at the breastbone. And so from here, and you can watch me for a moment if you like, from here, we have done this one recently, we're going to come to this funny sort of cartoon runner position. And then from here, we're going to start to let both legs lengthen out into this balance here, okay? So when you're ready, so you've got a bent front knee, you've got your thumbs resting on your breastbone, you bring your back leg off the floor and both knees are bent here. And I'm just bouncing a little bit on my standing knee. And I'm starting to reach back behind me with my left heel, letting that left leg lengthen out. And then I'm sinking into my standing knee. So the standing knee is straightening but not locking. Good. Very nice. Look at you, lovely hands. That's it at the breastbone. Beautiful. Very, very nice. And then as all of these balances, we have a few breaths. Come out, we have a little shake out. Let's try that on the other side. So feet hip width apart, come back to your Tadasana and step forwards with your left foot now. And just a little bit of rocking our weight forwards and back. Dropping down into our footprints. Settle in. Heavy from the waist down. And then bending the front knee. Hands into prayer pose. We know where we're going on side 2. So we're coming from here into our sort of cartoon runner position. We're just sort of being here for a moment, and then we start this reaching back behind us with the back heel. Sinking into the standing foot, maybe the back of that knee opens. But the knee maybe straightens a bit more, but it doesn't lock. It's fine if the knee stays bent. Very nice. Lovely. Good. Now come down and have a little shake out. And if I want us to try one more version of this balance. And then we'll go down through a squat, I think. So this time, what I want you to try, and I'll just show you the little sequence. You may not want to stay here too long. It's from here, and again, the front knee could be a little bit bent to start with. As we come forwards, as the back leg's straight now, as the back leg lifts, we take our arms out to the side. Once the back leg is up, we could then try taking the arms forwards. So again, think about this as a movement. We're not necessarily staying anywhere for particularly long, but we're trying to bring the movement of the arms and legs together. So I'm starting here with my fingertips on my breastbone. My front knee is a bit bent, and as I bring my back leg off the ground, that knee straightens more. So we start to shift our weight into our front foot. As the back leg comes up, we take the arms out to the sides. Once the back leg is up, then we could bring the arms forwards by the sides of the head. We might just have a breath or two there, and that's fine. And then we come back up. Very nice. Good. Yeah, so this is much more a movement into the balance rather than trying to stay there too long. So let's try the other side. Let's step the left foot forwards. Let's bend that left knee a little bit. Fingertips on the breastbone. So we're trying to coordinate this lifting of the back leg with reaching the arms out to the side. So we're shifting our weight onto our front leg. And as we do so, as the back leg lifts, we take the arms out to the side. Once the back leg is up, then the arms come forwards. Long from the fingertips to the back heel. If you can manage a breath there, that's wonderful, but you're not staying there long. Really nice. Coming back out, very good. Having a shake out. And then we're going to be one last time coming down through forward bend, squat, and this time we'll go on into cobbler pose. So it might be nice to have a few breaths in your forward bend. Usually is. I'm going to unmute everyone for a little bit. So if there's a bit of clunking when people are moving around, don't worry, because it will settle down. Okay. So yes, so from your forward bend, we're moving down one last time into a squat. Obviously slide your, sorry, my box has come up in front of the screen. Yes, so particularly if squatting is good for you, have a few breaths in your squat, have something under your heels. We've done lots of squatting today. And then from your squat, we're going to be using our hands to lower ourselves down onto our bottoms and come to sit in cobbler pose. You can first of all lean back onto the hands. So we're going to do a few sitting positions now, and I was going to try a couple of different ways into one particular position to see how we get on. So we might, again, we're going to be thinking about, I suppose, movement towards rather than staying. So first of all, from your cobbler pose, we're going to come into, surprise, surprise, pinwheel. So let's let the right knee come on top of the left knee, because I think I might get rather confused with what we're going to do in a moment if we don't all do the same side. And then come on into your pinwheel and a little bit of circling here. And yes, Sharon, it's not going to be pigeon today. So you will be disappointed now, won't you? So pinwheel, we can also do our pinwheel forward bend. And when you do this pinwheel forward bend, we're in a side bend in pinwheel. So if when you come forwards and you rest down, it feels a bit unbalanced through the sides of your body. That's because we are in a side bend. So yeah, just maybe knowing that will help you settle a bit more. So you don't expect to feel completely like you do in child pose, even through the sides of your body. You're probably going to be longer through the left side of your body than the right. So settle down for a few breaths. And as you exhale, just really trying to let yourself rest and be and settle and feel the breath. So when we walk our hands back in towards us, what might be quite helpful is to lean onto the left hand for a little bit because, and I've swung around just really so you can see me. So what we're going to be doing from here is this movement of bringing this leg across, but we're not coming into cow legs, we're coming into, I think it's Matsendrasana, where we stand this foot on the floor, but it might be helpful to repeat this a few times. So yeah, so the difference here, if we were coming into cow legs, we'd be coming onto the side of that foot, but now we're trying to stand this foot on the floor. And if that doesn't work with the foot on this side of the knee, then move your foot onto the other side of your leg, that's fine. Because what really is important here are the two things, is the twist we're about to do, and there's the mudra, which comes into it. So what we're going to be doing from here is turning towards the top leg, so turning towards the right. And this hand comes onto the inside of your knee. And it's not really so much that you're levering yourself round with it, so try and avoid that temptation. And then we have this really soft, open palm here. This is Abhaya Mudra, I think, and you see it often. So I'm using my fingertips of my right hand to help support my spine as well. This is Abhaya Mudra, and you often see it in sculptures of the Buddha. So I think it's this quite sort of quiet, settling, open gesture. Just see how it feels to have a couple of breaths here. And then untwist. Lean back onto your hands, just lengthen both legs out behind you. No, not behind you, in front of you. Give the legs a little bit of a roll. And then come back into cobbler pose.
Okay.
And from cobbler pose, let your left knee come on top of your right knee. So you can lean on your right hand, so you can slide your left leg back. So we're coming into the second side of the pinwheel. I'll explain that in a very convoluted way. So side 2 of pinwheel, little bit of circling here. That's settling. I might mute people in a moment. It's getting a little bit noisy. So a little bit of circling. And then turning towards your right thigh, folding your body down over your leg there. Very nice dog pose from Blue.
Yeah, it's joining in.
Yes, lovely Blue. So we're muted now, but do remember you can press the space bar on your device if you want to speak at any point. So another breath or so down in your pinwheel forward bend, just seeing how it feels, and also with that awareness that you are in a little bit of side bend here. You're going to probably feel longer through the right side of the body than the left. And then walking your hands back in towards you. So we can keep, so we're just leaving this right leg settled on the floor. We can lean onto the right hand. And we're just seeing, how does it feel to do this movement now with the left leg, with the intention that we're coming to a place where we're standing on this right foot. No, this left foot. Getting as confused as I would even if we weren't all doing the same side. So we want to be in a place where we can have both sit bones on the ground. So if this sit bone is really coming up, it's probably better to have the foot here, because in this twist, because we want to be able to twist, it's really important that wherever this foot is, it can stand on the floor, and that helps us to keep our spine upright. We can then keep the fingers of the left hand on the floor, and we're turning towards the left, turning towards this left leg, and then we're sliding the hand into this position. So, and again, we think about the palm here, being open, being soft. And we have a few breaths here. So this gesture, I think it's a gesture of abiding, actually. I meant to check my Mudra's book and I didn't. But we can have this feeling, just this sort of quiet palm facing forwards. Obviously, there's quite a big twist going on in the upper back. We would like our spine to feel as upright as possible. Good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then untwisting. Lengthen both legs out. Give the legs a little bit of a roll on the floor in front of you. And we're going to do another little twist here, keeping one leg long. And we'll maybe briefly come back to that pose. But so first of all, keep your left leg long and bend your right knee. So you're going to, if you look at me, I'm standing my right foot on the floor, but my foot is not, I'm trying to have my foot quite close into my buttock, but I've got my hip width distance here still. And then you can see what's it like to turn both towards and away from this leg. So if you hold on to your bent leg, it gives some support for your spine. So we want to try and feel that our spine is sort of long and tall. I mean, if we can feel our sit bones on the floor, ideally we're sitting on the center of the sit bones, not rolling off them. And holding on to the leg will help. We can turn one way, we can turn the other way. And then from here we can see what's it like to step this foot over our long leg. And so that foot is standing on the floor. And it could be that we keep this bottom leg long to come back into our twist, or it might be that you can shift your weight over to the left and bend that bottom leg and come back into the position we were just in. And you might find it easier going into it here. So if you come here and you think, okay, no, that's not brilliant, you could always lengthen this leg out again. So you've got these options here. And then just briefly revisit this twist where we're turning towards the right and we're bringing our hand into that beautiful mudra where the palm is facing forward, it's soft, it's quiet, it's open, our shoulders are dropping. We're feeling the breath come in, we're feeling the breath leave us. And then untwisting, taking the weight back onto the arms, lengthen both legs out. So these twists where we're sitting, they can be very effective because our pelvis is really fixed and then the rib cage can move a lot, but they can be challenging for us in terms of sitting comfortably. So bend the left knee now, stand the left foot on the floor. And yeah, just settle that foot down. So you're going to have got this hip width distance. I'm using this leg, this bent leg, to support my spine so that I can turn towards the leg, I can turn away from the leg. So our focus here is on the movement of the ribs and the shoulders. Good. Turning in one direction, turning in the other. And then what's it like to cross your foot over the other leg? See how that feels? So we can do the little, we'll turn the hand like this, or if it's comfortable, we could bend this bottom leg. So whether with your bottom leg straight or bent, just come back for a breath or two into this movement. And then untwisting, lengthening your legs out in front of you. Give the legs a little bit of a roll. A bit of a shake. And then just before we come to lie down, we're going to revisit those movements we did in kneeling. So if it's better for you to put a cushion under your feet, or between your heels and your bottom, you can do. So just come to sit in kneeling. And if I go side on, so just see if you can feel these movements of the pelvis. So in kneeling, can we, so it's a bit like cat. Can you have your hands on the rim of your pelvis? Can you just let your pelvis rock forwards and back? Good. So settle in the center. We're going to do the variation where we move the whole body first, and then we're going to do the variation where we just move the head. So first of all, let a breath come in, and then as you exhale, let the head come up, let the pelvis tilt. Good. And then breathe in, come back to the center. As you exhale, let your body curve forwards, let your head go down. Your back rounds out. Breathe in, come back to the center, let your spine come upright again. Exhale, turn to the right. Breathe in, back to the center. Exhale, turn to the left. Breathing in, come back to the center. And then one more time as you exhale, let your body arch forwards. Let your gaze come up. And then as you exhale, let your body round back. Let your head hang. And then come upright. And we're just going to do the movements of the head now. So keep them small. So let a breath come in the center. As you exhale, let your head come up a little bit. Breathing back to the center. Exhale, let your head fall forwards. Breathe in back to the center. Exhale, turn your head to the right. Drop the shoulders. Breathe in, turn your head to the center. Exhale, turn your head to the left. Breathe in back to the center. And then exhale, let your head come up a little bit. Breathe in back to the center. Exhale, let your head fall forwards. And then breathe in back to the center. And just have 2 cycles of breath if you can bear it in kneeling. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. We're then going to lie down. We're going to do a couple of things in lying down, very simple things. So lying down onto your backs to start with. And what did I have? I think, yes, lie down onto your backs with your knees bent to start with. If you want anything warmer on, I don't know, it's quite warm, depending whether you're in the sun or not. So lie on your backs with your knees bent and just see how it feels to arrive on your back. Yes, Otter's lying down, she knows what to do. And when you're lying on your back, the first thing I'd like you to do is just start to ease your head from side to side. So after all those little movements of the head, now with the head supported by the ground, let it roll to the right and to the left. Letting the shoulders feel heavy. The body feels supported by the ground. And from rolling your head, find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor. If it would be helpful to pick up your head in your hands, so interlink your fingers around the back of your head and lengthen out your neck a little bit without stretching it too much. Placing the head back down onto the ground. And then come to tilting your knees to the right and to the left. And see how this feels. So one of the movements we did towards the beginning of class, tilting the knees from side to side. Very nice. So easy, comfortable, rhythmic movement. And once, twice more. And then lengthening your legs out on the floor. And see how it feels to lie long. It's not always the most comfortable position for all of us. We're not going to be here long. So just lying long, you could stretch your heels away from you for a moment. And then from here, I would like you to roll onto your belly. So we just add this in every lesson. So roll onto your belly and just settle yourself on your belly. So you can either have the side of your head on the floor or you can have the forehead resting, maybe on the back of your hands. So just, yeah, whatever is most comfortable with your upper body. So lying on your belly. Wiggle your pelvis a bit. So wiggle the pelvis, settle it down. And then if you like the one where you bend your knees and you take the soles of your feet towards the ceiling, that's it. And then you tilt your feet now from side to side. So this usually feels, that's nice, quite a nice way to settle on our fronts. So tilt the feet to the right and to the left. And if your lower back's not entirely happy, just bring the feet a bit lower down, a bit nearer to the floor, or obviously don't do it. And then settle. You can do that a couple more times, sort of you seem to be enjoying it, and then you can settle onto your belly. And just I'd like you to have a few breaths on your belly. So now it's about gathering our attention into our breathing. How is it to lie on the belly and feel the body receiving the inhalation and letting the out-breath go? So when the breath comes in, where do you feel that expansion? And as the out-breath leaves you, can you allow yourself to soften and rest? And again, as the out-breath leaves you, where do you feel that widening? And letting yourself soften and rest as you exhale. And from your belly, you'll be rolling onto your back. And now settling yourselves on your back when you're ready. So this could be with knees bent or legs long, whichever you prefer. And when you end up on your back, it's interesting to just see What is it you want to do? What do you want to do with your legs? It might be that you want to come on your back and fold your knees to your chest. That would probably be quite good for you, Mel. Might be that you, yes, oh, yeah, very nice, Helen, good. You could, of course, take your legs up to the ceiling. Having folded your knees into your chest, you might want to take your legs to the ceiling for a moment. And your arms, Francis, yes, excellent, shaking them out. And then from there, you might want to either lie with your knees bent or your legs long. So just really all the time listening to your body and trying to be led by what your body needs, wants, would enjoy and appreciate right now. So settling down, if you feel you need a blanket, put one on. We're going to, let me see how long we have. We're just going to lie quietly for a couple of minutes. Might be nice to bring the hands to rest on the front of the body, so that sense of gathering into the center of ourselves. So notice where your attention is. And it's fine for the mind to drift. We like the body to settle. When the mind drifts, the mind is settling. But if we start to feel we're overthinking anything, trying to use this time to work something out, then maybe just come back to a quieter place where we can feel the flow of the breath in and out, the flow of the thoughts in and out, without fixing on anything, without trying to change anything, with just allowing ourselves to be exactly as we are right now. And I'm about to ring the singing bowl, so let yourselves carry on resting until we reach the silence at the end of the 3 rings. So thank you everyone, just take your time. If you're not in a rush, why not carry on resting a little bit longer?